guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Offensively, I think we've come out of some games outside of the Packer game. I think the other games we've come out of feeling like we got to be sharper, we got to be better. There's plays we're leaving out there, and you're always going to feel that to some extent. But I do feel that we have to tighten the screws down a little bit on some of our execution, and so that's kind of what we're working towards.
Yeah.
Reckless speculation.
He should have been wearing the chain again yesterday.
He should have been.
Darrisaw wants it back.
Whose chain was it? Darrisaw's chain?
And he wanted it back, man. That's an expensive chain. Kirk ain't taking
He even
that
told
chain.
us the story. So it has CD on the chain, and now Cousins has the nickname. This was actually pretty funny. Cousins actually showed some personality on Wednesday. So he has nicknamed Christian Darrisaw Crime Dog because he saw up on the big screen at a home game last year, they put up different notes about different players. There was a note up there about Christian Darrisaw, how at 10 years old, he was the first baseman for his Little League team.
Oh, my God.
So Cousins came up with the nickname Crime Dog.
Like the
Fred McGriff.
Fred McGriff.
Now, Christian Darrisaw had no idea who Fred McGriff was, so Cousins went to Google, showed him a picture of Fred McGriff, showed him his numbers. So Cousins telling that story was pretty good.
But that is Kirk. But that is Kirk embracing Kirk, which I sort of like now. He is 1,000% more like at ease publicly with being himself now. I think with Mike there, he was afraid that it might give Mike some ammunition to use against him or something. I don't know what it was, but if you watch him now, he is far more open. He's explaining what went wrong. He missed receivers. I appreciate this. He is now embracing his weirdness instead of trying to keep us at arm's length. And something's different.
And Kevin O'Connell is different,
right? But I'm saying that's
different. We know what is different. But you're right about that, Judd.
No, I mean I think these players feel like they have permission to not be perfect. They have permission to. You're going to fail in your job in football. You're going to get burned, on a play or throw a pick or whatever. And for whether it was 100% true or not. And by the way, this is a Reckless Speculation Thursday here. Darren Doogie Wolfson.
Hello.
From the 5 Eyewitness News department and also the Scoop podcast. I think these guys feel like, boy, if we screw up last year, we're really going to get it from Zim. And now it's kind of like Greg Joseph misses an extra point. Mike Zimmer would have not made eye contact with him for the next 3 months. Kevin O'Connell goes up to him on the sideline and says, hey, dude, you're good. You're going to get one back here. You're going to win the game for us. These guys just feel free to be themselves, like Judd was saying. It kind of feels like.
Well, absolutely. I mean, guys were walking around on eggshells last year, probably knowing that the end was coming very, very soon for the regime, minimum Mike Zimmer, but ultimately Rick Spielman as well. So not only, have they embraced Kevin O'Connell, these new coaches, but there's also this sense that, hey, this new regime is going to be here for a while, right? So, I don't know how to quantify how that translates always to the field. Phil, I do think there is something to be said about Greg Joseph, right? I mean, because kicking can just mind bleep with you so often that there probably is something to be said about, okay, he misses the extra point, but we'll need you later in the game. I have all sorts of belief in you. Going back to even, training camp. Remember how often Kevin O'Connell was gushing about how good Greg Joseph was looking. Matt Daniels, the special teams coordinator, said, hey, I'm paraphrasing slightly, but Greg is going to have the best year of his career. I think there is something to be said. I just don't know ultimately how to quantify all of it, how it ultimately translates to wins and losses.
It's difficult because of this. It's not black and white, right? It's not just all, well, Big Bad Zim is gone, so everyone's fine now. There are aging players on defense who are still regressing. And so the fact that Zim didn't say, good morning, do you want a donut? And O'Connell or Donatel doesn't help him. But I think hey, Eric Kendricks, what's up? No fear here. Should we watch Sesame Street? So on that one, that's different. But where I will say, there's no question about it, the two players most directly impacted that you can just see, Cousins, Joseph. Because those are two spots, and we talked about this for a long time, Zimmer hated. Zimmer's whole focus in life was stopping quarterbacks, not helping to embolden them. And kickers, I don't think he saw why. Why is a guy with a foot, a small guy with a foot, deciding a man's game, right? But yes, I do. But Dukes, to your point, I do think like it's not just across the board. Well, Kevin's nice, so everyone is just on the same page. And like we're definitely seeing some players who were beginning to regress with Mike as their coach who are still going to regress.
Well, sure, regress, but then there's also guys on the flip side who are playing at a very high level because of the scheme. It really doesn't have anything to do with the new coaching staff, like Dalvin Tomlinson.
That's a good one.
Right? I mean, he has spoken to me often, going back to OTAs and minicamp, about this defense, this scheme being perfect for his skill set. Well, through these first 4 games, he's been as brilliant as any player on that roster. I don't think it has anything to do with Kevin O'Connell being a lovey-dovey kind of guy. You know, Ed Donatel, maybe not so much, but maybe some of the other assistant coaches on defense. It's got to do with this scheme, and this scheme is perfect for him. I mean, he has been fantastic.
Yeah. Let's go down. We were just talking off microphone before here, so I'm looking up some Vikings defensive stats. And it's actually not as bad against the run as I thought. They're kind of mid-pack in terms of like average yards per attempt allowed. They're averaging, the defense giving up like 4.6 yards per carry, but 7 rushing touchdowns allowed, 131 rushing yards per game allowed. So it's not great. And like Judd said, with some of the aging players, I don't know that there's like a magic wand that like, you know, these old linebackers are going to get faster. And is there any help on the, like we've talked about Ndamukong Suh? Is that dead? Are there any chess moves they can make here personnel wise, Doogie, or is this kind of it a month into the season?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's it. I mean, we still have a trade deadline. I mean, I don't know how active they'll be leading up to that trade deadline. I don't even know what week it is. I mean, the NFL trade deadline is not the NBA, NHL, or Major League Baseball trade deadline, but you know, I mean, Kwesi literally wouldn't be doing his job if he wasn't at least inquiring about adding some talent. On Ndamukong Suh, I mean, it's dead from the standpoint of the Vikings made it known weeks ago, hey, we would happily take him for the minimum. And Ndamukong said no, or his agent said no, we're not coming there for the minimum. There really hasn't been any active dialogue since then. Sure, his agent has reached back out to the Vikings at different points. It's not dead to me until he either A, announces his retirement, or B, signs somewhere else. But there hasn't been traction for many, many weeks. We can even debate at this point now into October, how much would Ndamukong Suh help them? Right? Now, I'm sure he's doing some training off to the side. He's trying to stay in football shape. But the fact that he didn't participate in a training camp, all that through the month of August, now through September, like I'm not even quite sure Ndamukong Suh in his mid-30s is going to help this team or any other team. But like I would look at that trade deadline. I'm going to Google right now, or Declan, maybe you can.
November 2nd.
Exact date. Yeah, so we're one month away.
Nespresso. I don't know if you guys have an espresso machine, but it's changed my entire life.
We have an espresso machine?
I have an espresso machine.
Oh, you?
I
thought we here at Hubbard.
I am ready to go
this
office
new office,
this
new fancy office.
with a Keurig at home. So it was either our relationship or the Keurig, so I chose the relationship, and then we got the Nespresso machine. So yes, it is very delicious.
Jealousy and envy.
Yes.
How about next Thursday? I'm in studio.
Yeah.
You bring me one.
You got it.
Fair? All right, good. But anyway, until Suh signs somewhere else, Phil, like not dead, but hard to see at this point him coming here because as far as I know, he doesn't want to play for the minimum. But with 1 month to go, I'm sure things will pick up mid to late October, that bye week, right? Like I think the Vikings will be relatively active. Like if they can add somebody that can help them, I don't think Kwesi's going to be like, no chance. But like there's nothing percolating right now.
Interesting. On Cousins, so here's what I like too.
Were you genuine when you said that? Interesting, or were you just like, hey, I need to say something to segue?
No, it's interesting.
Insincere.
No, it was interesting. No, it's interesting. We haven't talked the trade dedeadline yet. We're always at the forefront of conversation.
Well, it's not like I have like any like heavy steam on the trade deadline.
No,
it's still a month out.
But you throwing open the door that Kwesi could make a move prior to 3 p.m. on November 2nd is interesting. It needs to be kept in mind. I was complimenting you.
I want to someday. I want to see news anchor Judd, where you guys like in Doogie's world in TV. You always have these weird, awkward transitions between like weather, back to the desk, sports, and there's small talk for like 10 seconds.
Oh, I'd be great at that.
That's where Judd would thrive.
I'd be great at that.
I would thrive at that.
What's going on? All right.
And so there's your 7-day forecast. Back to you, Judd. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's very, very interesting.
Oh,
Alrighty.
my dog Stella loves that weather out there.
You know what? Screw you guys. I want to be on Bally's. I want to be on Bally's is where I want to be, at the desk being told by Bally's, thinking, coming up next, the Twins choke again. Why Baldelli should be fired. That's not in the script. Yeah, it is. Now it is.
It is now, guy.
How about Tim Laudner post-game
what do you
yesterday
think?
suggesting that the win yesterday carries through the offseason? I
I
couldn't
don't.
help myself.
You know what? I don't. Don't get us started.
It was
Yeah,
Don't get
go
us
there.
started. Hey, Lods, I think Baldelli should be fired. What do you think? I think there's no question. All right, so I want to talk about Cousins because I think there's an interesting possibility here with Kirk because I like what I see from Kirk from a mentality standpoint. I like the fact that he appears to feel at ease enough to embrace the person that Kirk is. I think that that's a likable and genuine person, as opposed to the guy who has, for so long to me, seemed to have his responses already made up. But, Dukes, I think the intriguing thing about this is you know what? Statistically, Kirk has not been great. Now he has led back-to-back fourth quarter game winning drives, which, by the way, in his first 2 years here, he had one of those because he tied the game in Green Bay and then, of course, the Broncos game in 2019. So with Kirk, I do think what's interesting about this is the door is open for the possibility of certainly that the relationship between O'Connell and Kirk is going to continue to evolve and develop. And you're 3-1 now, but I mean, if O'Connell can maximize Kirk in the coming weeks and months, you could be looking at a very different quarterback, not just as far as stats go, but as far as getting wins, which was our primary complaint. The clutch gene was not there a lot of times. Now, I think there's an opportunity that it might be.
Well, I think there's an opportunity regardless because the schedule is so favorable. I mean, we've been saying that for a while, but now looking forward, I mean, does Tua even play in 2 weeks? No, I mean, this Bears game on Sunday should be a relative layup. I still think, Phil, I made the point on Tuesday with Judd, 1 to 53, 1 to 52, whatever, 1 through practice squad, if you want to take it to 60-something. The Bears have the worst collection of players in the league. Maybe by design, right? I mean, their GM was in the mix here. Ryan Poles, my understanding is he would have stripped things down here if he had gotten the job. Maybe that's why he never made it here for that second interview. Right? So, I mean, this was the idea. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know about sabotaging Justin Fields, but, that collection of players is so darn bad. And, does Jalen Johnson play? Does David Montgomery play? So you should win on Sunday. Does Tua play the following Sunday? You just start looking at the schedule. Now, Arizona should be better with DeAndre Hopkins back on October 30th. But, it's a very favorable schedule. The game at Washington shouldn't be all that difficult. Sure, the game at Buffalo, yes, I get it. It's not like they are going 15-2 or 16-1. They are going to lose games. But, a pathway to 10 or even 11 victories, it seems very, very possible.
It's all there.
It just does. But on Kirk, I would trust. I just think, Kevin, I go back to that first drive on Sunday, those scripted plays, the play calling, the play designs. Kevin O'Connell knows what the heck he's doing. Maybe not from a clock management standpoint. There's still some in-game stuff that needs to be worked through where, presumably he's going to get better. But, in terms of just being a brilliant offensive mind, I am seeing it come to fruition. Plus, Johnny Munt is going to catch that ball in that third down 9 out of 10 times. I think Cousins actually makes that throw to Jefferson in the end zone 8 out of 10 times. Maybe not 9, but certainly more often than not, he's going to put that ball square on Jefferson's hands, not behind him. So I still have pretty good faith that Cousins is going to play at a pretty high level the rest of the way with the completion percentage jumping higher than it is right now.
It is, and we're going to do a deeper dive into the state of the offense on Purple Daily today, every Thursday. And I have a Kirk Cousins section for these guys, but it's kind of amazing, statistically, whether you want to look at some of the back of the football card stats, like traditional passer rating or yards per attempt, or you want to go into more of the advanced stuff, the expected points added. He is outside the top 20 in most key measurements to start the season, and I don't care. I mean, I think he needs to be better than that for the long haul, but I love that this team has found its way into some murky stuff the last couple weeks where things don't look like you're down 2 touchdowns against the Lions or the Saints come back, and these are sort of character tests at the end of the game. And Kirk has handled them well. The team has handled them well. The fact that they're banking wins like this, Doogie, with a pretty easy schedule on the horizon, this is actually a great start for the Vikings while they try to figure out their offensive systems, and Kevin O'Connell figures out calling plays for the first time and the defense. So I kind of love the start for Cousins. Face some adversity and go win the game anyway, and they have the last 2 weeks.
I'm okay with it. Big boy throws in the moment, right? Against Detroit to Osborne in the moment, against New Orleans, to Jefferson. At some point, too, Dalvin Cook is going to deliver an explosive play or two, right? I mean, like Demario Davis trips him up. Otherwise, does he take it to the house last Sunday? But at some point, even though, heck, I'd like to know how really banged up Dalvin is. I mean, it's been one injury after another. He has the goal of playing 17 games, but if he gets to 17, like at the end of the year, is he even 60%, 65%? He's got stuff that's continually bothering him. But like at some point, he's going to explode, right? And so you think about the running game helping Kirk that much more. But yeah, I'm with you. Like this start, now Philadelphia looks really, really good. You'd hate to play Philadelphia in the NFC champ. Well, you would happily take the NFC championship game, I suppose. But, point would be, second week in January, divisional playoff game. You'd hate to be at Philadelphia, right? Just the way Philadelphia is rolling right now, if they can maintain their health. And certainly Green Bay, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, the Rams. I mean, the NFC looks relatively wide open, but why not? Why can't we have the discussion of, hey, can the Vikings be in that mix come early to mid-January?
On O'Connell and the clock dukes, I think it's intriguing because of this. So with Zimmer, I always felt that the game would get away from Mike at times, much like it does from Fleck at times. Like I sense there's a chaos that I don't like, and it influences his ability, or it did, to make decisions. On O'Connell, and the couple things that became highlighted at the end of the first half against the Saints, all right? The fourth down, he explained, like it or not, and I get why people didn't, he did explain, hey, I felt that I had called my best play there, and I didn't want to try and force a play that might not work. On allowing the clock, I believe it ran down from 52 to what, like 25 or something like that?
Yeah, 25 or 26, something like that, yeah.
In the moment, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Stop the clock, stop the clock, stop the clock. But the reality is, because he's got a guy by him, so it's not like he lost track. The reality of his decision came down to he didn't have faith, I think, that Kirk was going to get a play there that he liked, and he kicked the field goal, okay? So, and we might all on this show say, that's crazy, come on, man, it's Kirk Cousins, go. But I don't think it was a Zimmer-like, oh my God, the clock is running down, Mike, why aren't you stopping it? Which I felt was Mike's problem. O'Connell very deliberately made a decision that on that day at that time was basically akin to a vote of no confidence, but I don't have as big a problem because he knew what he was doing, if that makes sense.
Well, it does make sense, and I can respect him laying it all out. I can respectfully disagree with the approach that I would trust Cousins in that moment, but yeah, I mean, he does. I mean, you said it, Judd. He's got a guy right by his side helping him manage those clock situations. He wasn't flustered.
Right.
He wasn't thrown for a loop. He knew exactly what the heck he was doing. I just happen to disagree.
Can I change the subject to other sports here? Are you guys good on Vikings?
It's your show. Scoops here? Yeah, recklessly speculate any which way you want to go.
I've enjoyed it all.
Okay, all right. I know you guys have touched on Carlos Correa throughout the last few weeks, but he was very forthcoming in his comments the last few days, saying that he is an expensive handbag or whatever it is. You're shopping at a mall.
He got one of those expensive handbags for Louis Arise, by the way.
Mm-hmm. A Dior
Actually, it wasn't a Dior. It wasn't. It was a Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, he had such a great finish to the season. There's almost no way he doesn't test the open market. So is there any % chance he's a Twin in 2023 and beyond?
Well, I mean, is there any? I mean, I suppose there's some. I mean, I've thought this for a while. I continue to think this. His wife really, really likes it here. He really, really likes it here. I sense he, like a lot of players, has a strong desire to win at a high level. You could look at this situation. It's hard to look at it after 78 and 84, but you could look at it and say, this division is still about the weakest in baseball, certainly the weakest in the American League, right? So when sizing it up in 2023, if we can find a way, and the Twins behind the scenes are going to tweak, I don't know how public the announcements will be, but the strength and conditioning staff, there's going to be some tweaks there. I also would look for a tweak with the pitching coach, just with Mackey, Pete, not you, Phil, coming in on an interim basis. Like, he's going to remain in the organization, but I would look for them to bring in a different pitching coach at some point this winter. That will be more of a public hiring. With strength and conditioning, not so much. But if you're Correa, like, you can look at it and say, if we can find a way to keep half of these guys healthier, I get it. Over the course of 162, guys are going to miss, some games. But if we can find a way to keep a lot of these guys healthier than they were, we can legitimately make a run at a Central Division championship next year. But make no mistake, even though he's already made a boatload of money, he wants to cash out, right? Like, he is looking for a 7-8 year type deal. Yeah. He's got a very shrewd agent, very, very shrewd agent, right? So, as much as this is Carlos's call, Scott's going to be involved in this process heavily. So it's on the Twins, to present a legit offer. But if they do, Phil, I think he's very, very open-minded to signing here. Like, I don't think he looks at the infrastructure and says, this thing is broken, like no way, no how would ever return to Minnesota. Like, I sense he really likes living here. He likes the way the organization runs things. He likes a lot of the young talent. Like, if there's a way, if they're willing to pay him 7 years, whatever the number is, do you go as high as $30 million a year, $32 million a year?
Yes.
Right? If they're willing to make that offer, I think he'll put pen to paper. I really do believe that. But it's on the Polats, right? It's on them to say, okay, let's do it. The Twins have all sorts of financial flexibility. If you look at the money that's committed for next year, and if they're going to get back up to 140, 145 for total payroll, they have many, many, many millions of dollars to play with. So to me, if I'm the Twins, why not? Right? Like, I love the potential of Brooks Lee, not so much Austin Martin, Royce Lewis. Where does he fit? But like, I don't care about any of that. If you can secure, if not the best, one of the 2 or 3 best shortstops in the game. And I get it. He wasn't quite as good as he was last year. He wasn't platinum gold glove defensively this year. The clutch numbers weren't there, but across the board, he's a top 2, top 3 type shortstop in the game at 28 years old. He just turned 28 2 weeks ago. If I'm the Twins, I'm keeping that guy. I want that guy around for the next 7-8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Dukes, as far as the potential market for shortstop goes, Bogarts, Dansby Swanson, Turner, Correa.
I love Turner, by the way, but if I'm the Dodgers, I'm keeping him.
So where does, as far as that list goes, who's the top and like how, because Swanson had a great year too. Absolutely. He's been great for the Braves. So I guess my question is this: if you're Scott Boras and you probably take Correa to market, how does that list fall? Because it's the second consecutive year in which there's been no shortage of really good shortstops on the free agent market.
Well, I mean, I see Swanson back with the Braves. I mean, there's already some buzz that they're, they've made some progress on an extension. So I think Dansby is back with the Braves. Okay. Hard for me to see the Dodgers letting Trey Turner walk. Right? I guess suppose possible. Boston is going to do something. Now, is it as simple as re-signing Bogarts, who also had a fine year, or would they make a run at Carlos Correa? It doesn't seem like the Yankees are going to spend on a shortstop. Heck, they're going to have to give Aaron Judge a record-setting contract. I know it's the Yankees, but they have some shortstops in their system that are knocking on the door. Like, They don't need to spend $200 and something million, maybe even $300 on a shortstop. So, like, I'll be surprised if the Yankees are in that mix. I don't foresee the Mets being in that mix, or Correa saying, sure, I'll play a different position. Like Lindor is their shortstop. Right. Steve Cohen is going to spend money, but probably more likely on some arms, maybe a different position player or a different position, not shortstop. So you go up and down the list. Like, where could Correa go? Now, I've heard for a while the Cubs have interest, right? The Cubs have financial flexibility. So that's one team I would keep an eye on. Do the Phillies do something? They've added so much payroll, but depending on how the Phillies do here the next couple weeks, that would be another team that I would keep an eye on. But you start going up and down the list, like how many different possibilities are there? There's just not a long list. Now, Scott is really good, right? The agent is really good at finding teams, right? I mean, he found the Twins last second for this year with the 2-player options. But at some point, those talks will pick up. I'll spend some time with Derek Falvey on Monday, so maybe I'll get a better sense being over at Target Field on Monday when those talks will pick up. I mean, heck, to me, they should pick up here pretty quick. We know Correa is going to opt out, so that to me is not any sort of story to follow. But the question is, when will the Twins start diving deep on talks with Scott? But those talks will happen. But it's on the Twins. To answer Phil's question, it's on the Twins to present that 7 or 8 year contract at big money to keep him. But if they do, I can't see a scenario where he does stay here.
Here's the thing. One of the pieces of pushback I hear from people is, you got all these, pitching holes, and you don't know who are your starting pitchers. And I would say this. I'd rather spend big free agent money on a known commodity in his prime position player that has a lot less injury risk than the money you're going to have to spend. I mean, look at some of the pitchers they brought in. Hell, they all have arm problems anyways. I think if you're spending money on a 28 or 29-year-old free agent pitcher and you're going to spend $30 million a year, that arm could blow up and he's gone. That doesn't happen really there's injuries that could happen to shortstops, but I would feel much more comfortable spending that chunk of money on Carlos Correa than like door number two starter guy. Go fix your rotation by developing arms from within. And if you feel like this front office can't do that, then find one that will. That's like the formula isn't to buy pitching if you're the Twins. You're not gonna win that game against the other organizations. It's develop pitching and then fill some of the other holes on the position player side by spending wisely. And I like the Josh Donaldson contract a few years ago. I thought that was a good shot to take. And then the rest of the team kind of tanked and COVID happened and whatever.
It would be nice if they could hit on one of these reclamation type projects though, like Tyler Anderson going back to last winter instead of Dylan Bundy, instead of Chris Archer, instead of Homer Bailey. That you're probably going to sign somebody on a 1-year deal. J.A. Happ, right? Like, can you hit on one of these guys? Right, Shoemaker, right? Like, no. Can you hit on one of these guys where one of these guys turns out to be pretty good? But to your point, Phil, like if I had to win one baseball game tomorrow, I'd probably start, well, maybe it's Verlander, but I can make a case for starting Jacob deGrom, right? And deGrom is going to be a free agent this winter. But would you feel comfortable giving him $300 million with that injury history?
No.
And I love the guy, right? Like, he's phenomenal. But I would hesitate to give him that much money with that injury history.
No.
So I get it on Correa. He's been incredibly durable.
Yeah.
And you're getting him for his ages 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, yes. 34, maybe by 34. There's some breakdown, right? But, like, you should have really good years, 28, 29, 30, 31 for sure. Like, you should have rock solid 4 years there.
Absolutely. That's the difference between this and, say, the Donaldson deal that they signed is that they were getting him, well into his 30s. So,
yeah, I mean, Correa literally just turned 28 on September 22nd or 23rd, sometime in the last 10 to 14 days. So you would have him all of next year at his age 28 season, then in 24 for his age 29 season, right? Like, you do it. Like, to me, I do it. Now, it's not my money. I understand that. But, like, I would offer him, does he take 7 at, like, how high do you need to go? Do you need to go to 32, 33, 34 million? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably $240 million, 7 years, 240 or something.
All right, well.
I'm in.
I personally don't think that's ridiculous. The question is, does he fight for an 8 or 9 year deal? But 240 doesn't seem like way over the top to me.
Yep. All right, empty your scoop bag here, Doogie, before we say goodbye on this Reckless Speculation Thursday.
Go for basketball, October 22nd. secret scrimmage, but, I was going to find out, or somebody else was going to find out, Jeff Goodman, somebody, but I happened to find out. Secret scrimmage, Williams Arena against Colorado State. So that's a good, tune-up before the non-conference schedule starts in November. Last year, the Gophers played a secret scrimmage in Norman, Oklahoma against the Oklahoma Sooners. They lost that game, but sometimes they put out the box scores after the fact. After it's done, they'll put out a box score. The two teams last year decided not to even put out a box score. They wanted to keep it very, very secret. But in year one of Ben Johnson, they lost that secret scrimmage. But yeah, we'll find out how they do on October 22nd at Williams Arena. The Nets and Nuggets have had NBA scouts come through to watch Gopher basketball practice. You think about the potential of Dawson Garcia, Jamison Battle, so two guys to keep an eye on that I think undoubtedly will make money playing basketball one day. The question is, are they making money in the NBA, or is it G League, or is it overseas? But Battle and Garcia have pro potential big time. Jalen Noel, very good Tuesday night in Miami. Just a reminder why he turned down the Wolves extension offer in June. They offered him 3 for $9 and 4 for $13. Like, he can make more than that next summer on the open market. The Wolves play tonight in Vegas against the Lakers. So earlier in Vegas this afternoon, it's the G League Ignite with all sorts of NBA prospects against that 7'5" guy from France that is the best pro prospect in years. He'll be the number one pick next June. There's already talk of teams, trying to tank, doing all they can to secure the best possible lottery position, even though it's, a 14% chance? You could have the worst year and still only have, a 14 or 15% chance of landing the number one pick next June. But you look at the Jazz, the Spurs, the Thunder, maybe the Rockets, the Pacers. Like, these are teams that are going to try to lose to secure the best possible chance at getting this 7'5" guy. I don't know if you saw the highlights. Victor, I don't even know how you say his last name, Phil and Judd, but I don't know if you saw the highlights on SportsCenter or on YouTube or wherever. But 7'5", and like, his wingspan is legit. Like, you think about Mark Eaton back in the day, 7'4" for Utah. This guy has a wingspan that's longer than Mark Eaton's. He shoots threes like Kevin Durant. He defends like Rudy Gobert. Like, he is off the charts. Like a legit 7'5", by the way,
Should
too.
the Wolves tank? Should the Wolves tank? Is that what you're suggesting? Let's tank. Tank.
It sure would be nice if the Wolves had a first-round pick, wouldn't it? Yeah. Although the Gobert trade was fine. But yeah, the Wolves did have scouting representation on Tuesday for that game. And now with, the Wolves contingent in Vegas, they'll have a healthy contingency at today's game before their game tonight.
There he is, Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department and the Scoop Podcast. We'll catch you next week, Dukes. Great
Okay,
stuff.
take it easy, boys. See ya.
Inside information about your favorite Minnesota sports teams presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. They've been around for over 100 years helping business owners. They are excellent at what they do. They believe in face-to-face relationships. They believe in uplifting your business through risk management and protection, like a great offensive line if your business is the quarterback. Go to federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours.